bandwidth over the path, you have to set up the core. Okay, so core setup is nothing but remembering the path. The path consists of a number of links, right, from one device to another device. So once you finish the core setup, you basically get this source, let's see, from the source to the destination and the reversed path. Okay, and then you can go ahead and reserve bandwidth for those links. And whenever there is a new call to set up, then the new call setup procedure will try to reserve a new portion of bandwidth on that link or some of the links. Then if the total reserved bandwidth is more than the link bandwidth, then you have to drop the new call setup. So this is the basic idea. Okay, any questions, comments? Okay, so how to reserve? So the idea to reserve is to divide resources into pieces. And those pieces allocated to different cores. And remember, those pieces will remain idle if it's not used by the we call owing core. Even it's idle, it's not shared with any other user, right? For example, if we are sleeping in this classroom, right, nobody else can come in and take it over, right? So as long as you are reserve this path, reserve all the links on the path, it's yours, even though you are not using it. So you can imagine there might be a waste of resources, right? Waste of resources. Okay. And how to divide those resources? There are two different ways. You can divide according to frequency. So we call FDM, frequency division multiplexing. So for example, you have 4 users. Then you can divide the frequency to 4 different frequency range, okay? And each band is assigned to one specific user. So each user will basically transmit over this frequency band. Okay. Another way is to divide the time. So each user can use all the frequencies, but you can only transmit during this specific time range we call slot. Okay. So each color represents a specific user. Any questions? Okay, pretty straightforward. So what is packet switching? So in packet switching, users share the same network resource. Nothing is reserved. And once you basically access the network, you access the link, you can use the full bandwidth. What do you mean by full bandwidth? In the FDM case, you can use all the frequencies. In the TDM, as long as you can access it, there's no limitation on how long you're going to use, as long as you have access to it. Therefore, contention is there, right? Contention is there. So, basically, we may have congestion if the total number of resources demanded exceeds the amount of resource available, right? And in packet switching, we never drop demand. We never drop it. Okay. For example, in my 40 class, 40, usually the capacity is 40, 45, but now we have 50 students. Okay. If it's circuit switching, the 5 more students will be, disallowed. But in packet switching, people just pack in the room, right? So there might be congestion. In networking, congestion means somebody has to wait in the list, within the queue for transmission. Wait to be the next to be transmitted. Okay. So this is how you hear about the term packet queue. Okay. So does packet queue exist in circuit switching? No. You either get assigned the resource or you get dropped. You never wait in the queue. But in packet switching, you wait in the queue if you have not won the contention. Okay. Another behavior of packet switching is store and forward. So in store and forward, it's not like, think about a water valve. Okay. So the water goes from left, let's say left to right, right? So think about the water as, huge number of particles, okay, small particles. Then the waters will go through, even for one single particle. That means when the first particle arrives at the entrance of the valve, it's going to immediately, go through. But in packet switching, we wait until the complete packet to be received before we go ahead and send it out. Does that make sense?
I thought most routers use cut through though, rather than sort forward, don't they?
Yes. So yeah, it's called cut through, right? So we send packet by packet. We're not sending bit by bit. Okay, so this is one behavior of packet switching. So let's see this example. We have A and B. They both send packets to, let's assume C as a destination. Now, if the bandwidth from B to the router, the first router, is 10 megabits per second, then we will have a queue. If the outgoing link is only 1.5 megabits per second. Okay, so who are in the queue? Some packets come from A, some packets from B, and in this case, there's no specific pattern. Okay, no perfect pattern. I say you go first, then me, then you go first. So statistically, each user gets pretty much the same number of packets on the link and in the queue. But you can see we may have two consecutive packets from A, and then followed by one packet from B, and then one packet from A, then maybe multiple packets, see they here, from B, and so on. It's kind of like a statistical, but the actual pattern can be kind of like a random. Make sense? So this is called a statistical multiplexing. So in this case, if there's no other condition or assumption, A and B gets pretty much the same share of the bandwidth. statistically, not exactly, right? It's like you toss a coin, right? You will get two heads and then one tail and then one head and then two tail. If you drop enough time, you will see head and tails are going to be roughly the same. Enough, maybe like 10,000, a million, and so on. The more you drop, then the statistical effect is more obvious. Okay. So anyway, so packet switching has basically two differences. One, no reservation. Two, queue, right? Or may have congestion. Okay, those are the two basic differences. Okay, so because of the stall and the forward behavior, we will have what is called a queuing delay. Transmission delay. So since you have to wait until the whole packet to be received before you send it out, so the time for from the first bit of the packet arrive to the last bit to leave is L over R. Make sense? So the first bit arrive, then you wait for however many bytes or bits, and then you send the whole thing out, right? So the time will be L over R. Okay, so give example. If L is a 7, I think this is a typo. Okay, if L is 7.5, I think this is a kilobits. Sorry, and R is 1.5. The slide was not correct. Okay, let me just give the example. Okay, let's see if L is 750 bytes. Okay, this is very typical. R, let's see, is 1.5 megabits per second. So what we have is L over R is 750 by 8 bits, right? Divided by 1.5 by 10 to the power of 6 bits per second. So this gives us, so this will be 500, right? So 4,000 divided by 10 to the power of 6 second. So that gives us 4 millisecond, right? Now see what? At every router, you incur 4 milliseconds if the router speed is 1.5. Now think about it. If you have 20 routers on between the send and receiver, then you have 20 by 4 millisecond transmission delay alone. This is a large delay, right? This is a large delay. Make sense? So, what can we do to reduce it? So make R bigger, right? Can we make R smaller? Therefore, network packet should not be very big. Make sense? If it's very big, then you incur too much delay for every hop. and then you end up with large delay for international communication. Can we reduce number of routers? Yes. Okay, so then reduce n. So in IPv4, okay, in IPv4, whenever a packet is more than a certain threshold, it's going to be fragmented to smaller ones and send it out. And in IPv6, this is basically dropped. Okay, this is basically dropped. But still, the upper layer will still have to handle the size of the packet. Okay, so this also explains why most voice packets are very small. Most voice packets range from 20 to 100 bytes. So their delay, because voice, the delay, the people's sensitivity to delay is very, very high. Okay, so you don't want to have much delay. For voice. For video, many times can be from 200 to 800 bytes. Because people can accept certain delay for video. Okay, any questions, comments? Okay, so finally I give one example on comparing the performance of packet switching and the circuit switching. So now, if you have 1 megabit per second link, and each user, if active, requires 100 kilobits per second, and each user is only active for 10% of the time. What does that mean? See, think about it. In the past, we use the modem, right? To go to the internet, right? Let's assume we use the circuit switching instead of the current day packet switching, right? So then your internet connection will establish a kind of like a call, right, with the server. Now, whenever this call is set up, you basically reserve the bandwidth, but for some reason you go to the website for like 10 minutes and then you do something else, okay, for 50 minutes and then come back, do a little bit, and then most of the time you are not using the connection. So this means 10% of time being active. Now, then if it's circuit switching, you can only support 10 users, right? You can only support 10 users. Even though 90% of the time, every user will have 90% of the time waste of resource that could be shared by somebody else, right? But now you pay the price for guaranteeing the service, right? You want to guarantee. Therefore, you say, okay, no problem. So maybe those users are the paid users. Okay, you get money. So you would rather waste the resource, not give those free users, right? So, but not worrying about the revenue motivation. We just look at exactly how many users we can support without much performance sacrifice. So here the performance sacrifice, we give very, very strict standard. What standard? We want that the probability that there are 10 or let's say more users, okay, are active, okay, at the same time. think about it. If at one time we have more than 10 users, we have performance congestion, right? But if it's below 10 or equal to 10, we have no problem at all, right? So in order to know whether or not packet switching is better in this case, we need to calculate, okay, what is the probability of you having 10 active users? 10 or more. Well, you can think about it. If the number of users is more, then this probability is more, right? If there are 1,000 users, then the probability of having 10 users active at the same time is almost guaranteed, right? But if you have 35 users, the probability is only 0.04%. So 4 out of a million, right? 4 out of a million. That means does not happen usually, right? So our standard is already very strict. So in this case, with packet switching, we can support 35 users without much problem. If all the users agree, okay, if sometimes I see very bad performance, I'm totally okay with that, right? Okay, assuming I'm not losing money if something bad. So, I mean, the probability is very, very, very low. So therefore, you can see that in this case, the packet switching is better than the circuit switching. So now, can you change the condition so that packet switching is worse than circuit switching? We limit 35 users, let's assume.
When is it?
Go ahead.
Like nowadays, everybody's using peer-to-peer networks. So if somebody leaves their torrent stuff open or whatever,
Okay.
then the computer's still active while they're on, even though they're not active peer-to-peer.
Okay, so in this case, you mean the circuit switching is better than packet switching, or?
Because a lot of computers nowadays are active while on servers.
So you mean they are? So basically, the internet user behavior is like this, right? Internet user behavior is like this, but what if everybody is busy using the internet? Then circuit switching is better than packet switching, right? But fortunately, like I said, internet behavior is like this. You know, a lot of people, they just get connected without keep sending the packets. You are on the internet, but you can be silent for 2 hours. Or you open a page reading for 1 hour, right? Without doing anything, any packet sending, receiving. So therefore, this behavior make us to conclude, okay, packet switching is more promising compared with circuit switching. In fact, circuit switching is almost disappeared from the history, not history, from the industry. So even people use a lot of internet, IP phone call, right? So we're not using a lot of those SS7 stuff. Okay. All right. So we're going to continue discussion next class. Okay.
See if one of the syllabus is supposed to